One of the many crappy tasks that an in-house lawyer must perform is interfacing with senior management and the board about disclosing perquisites, commonly known as perks, today on Zippy Point.
Quick Zips by Zippy Point.
Quick and dirty. I'm Brock Romanek, and I'm a big fan of yous. Perks are special benefits that executives get that the rest of the workforce doesn't, and that confer some sort of personal benefit. They're disclosable as compensation in a company's proxy statement that's filed with the SEC and delivered to shareholders. I'll note that we're talking here about perks as a disclosable item for SEC purposes. Whether something is taxable because it's not a business expense is not necessarily the same thing. The SEC has specifically stated that the IRS determinations in this area do not matter. They don't matter at all. Okay, so let's start with the history lesson. The general public began to get a taste of the extent to which perks were out of control when a few fraudulent companies bit the dust during the speculative internet bubble, the collapse in the early 2000s. Tycho's Dennis Kozlowski's extravagances come to mind, a $30 million New York apartment with $15,000 dog umbrella stands, all paid for by the company. Tycho's $1 million contribution to Dennis's wife's birthday party. It was all pretty crazy, quite scandalous. The outrage over that kind of thing helped lead the SEC to change its disclosure rules in 2006 so that companies were forced to provide much more detail about their executive pay packages, including specifically identifying perks that executives received. And I have a separate Vid-Guide that runs through the details of the definition of perk, a link to which is beneath this video. After this, perk practices were much more transparent, and big institutional investors and the proxy advisors demanded that companies drop the more egregious perk practices. And that happened in pretty short order. Poof, they were gone. So except for a few bad apples here and there, perk practices are not out of control anymore. Companies have put the kibosh on perks that were heinous on the face at most companies. But perks still exist, but they have mostly evolved into arrangements that allow executives to work more efficiently, things that save them time, and things that reduce the risk faced by executives, keep them safe. Security, health is important these days, that type of thing where there's both a business and a personal nature to them. This is why that becomes such a big challenge for you as the in-house gatekeeper of sorts, that the one that has to decide what gets disclosed to the public. It gets messy because there are a number of practices here that both have a personal and a business nature to them. So your executives might challenge your classification of certain things as perks. They don't want to have items that might be embarrassing to them disclosed in the proxy made known to the public. They don't want their compensation levels to be any higher than they already are. And as the in-house lawyer dealing with this stuff, it can be a real hassle. The things that you classify as a perk can be a real thorn in their side. So the battle might start right out of the gate. A new hire has their own lawyer, and a new executive comes in and they have their own lawyer to negotiate their initial pay package. And this advisor to that new executive is asking for a bevy of things that are going to have to be disclosed as perks. So you want to try to stave that off as much as you can because you don't want to have to get into the battle later about disclosing this stuff to the public. Then there are a bunch of activities that feel like business, they have business feel to them, but they really also have this personal component, so they're roped in as perks. So for example, taking clients to a sporting event or the opera, bringing along your spouse or your partner to a business dinner. These are common examples of things that might feel like business, but they're disclosable as perks for the SEC's rule purposes. Then there's the activities that most companies have to closely track so they can determine the incremental cost to the company of these perks. The chauffeured cars from an insider's house, the use of the corporate jet. Many companies log quite specifically on which occasions the use of these modes of transportation are for personal use and which times are used for business, logging them segment by segment, hour by hour, minute by minute. It's difficult. This tracking may happen within a department that is not yours, not the legal department. Rather, it might be finance or treasury or maybe even the in-house travel department. Then you get involved right after the company's fiscal year end when you're doing your diligence to start drafting the company's proxy, looking at the log summary for the year, what the tracking reveals, and start to ask questions that stirs the pot and your executives are not happy. But it's necessary, and that plays out year after year, year after year. Joy. I commiserate with you. So I have another Vid-Guide about tracking directors' travel transportation, a link to which is beneath. or go to zippypoint.com, and also search YouTube with the hashtags perks, hashtag zippypoint, because I have lots of vid guides about perks. Lots, like 3 dozen.